going on, guys? Today we are going to go over the squat. We have Desiree here to help demonstrate the movement. So what we're going to focus on is some of the technical breakdowns that I see happen a lot with the squat. And when you start to talk about the squat, before you even get under the bar, you want to think about the dynamics that's going to make it a successful squat. And that is rooting into the ground and then bracing into your belt. So what you want to do first off when you root into the ground is you're trying to think of spread in the ground. So when you tell people to root and grab the ground, a lot of times they'll start to bring their toes in and clam into the ground like that. And what's that gonna do is that's gonna give you a smaller base to do your squat off of, so it's gonna create a little bit of instability. So what you wanna do is kind of widen your toes out as much as possible and get as much surface area onto the ground and then grab in with your toes. So that's the proper way to to root into the ground. A good way to kind of make sure that you're doing that is you can have one of your training partners or just someone else, the coach. They'll get down and put like a business card or credit card underneath their toe. So go ahead and get in a squat stance, Des. So as they're squatting, you'll be able to pull the whole time to make sure that they're putting constant pressure onto the big toe, onto the pinky, and then onto the heel. So those are gonna be your 3 contact points with really driving pressure, keeping the weight in the middle of your foot. So once you have the rooting portion down, right, then you can move on to the bracing portion, because if your feet aren't set in any of the lifts, then you're not gonna really be able to distribute that force equally like you want to. Next is gonna be bracing. You can reference our bracing video that Kaylee did if you wanna think about like a more indirect way to facilitate bracing. But here we just wanna focus on really just trying to push down into your belt and not chest breathe or not raise your traps. So everything needs to be here, pushing in and pulling your rib cage down. So if you're having a lot of upward motion with the bar as you're getting your breath, you want to try to minimize that as much as possible, because what you're doing is you're creating disadvantage points of your actual squat. So if you raise up and then you try to decompress back down, you're creating weak links within your vertebrae. So you want to keep everything as depressed and pushed into the ground as possible. I tell people to think like you're trying to get a little bit shorter by pushing yourself into the ground and then really pulling the bar down into you. So Desiree is going to get under the bar. And the next thing we're going to talk about is back tightness and lat engagement. So a lot of people will think, pulling it in, getting tighter, getting your back, calm down, put it back in. People are gonna think pulling your shoulder blades back and tight is how you're gonna get your back tight. What that does is that puts you in a position here where everything's kind of loaded onto the shelf here and then into your forearms and your biceps, which is gonna cause a lot of issues because they're not really getting their lats engaged. So what you wanna do is closer doesn't always mean better and tighter. So you kind of wanna fill your hands around and really squeeze with your pinkies here, down into your elbows, down into your side here to really activate those lats. So it may mean that you got to go out a little bit wider to get lat engagement. If you can come in and get it, that's fine. But just remember, pulling your shoulder blades back to create a shelf is not the best way to have the bar resting. You want it resting on your lats, so that way you get a little bit less stress and create elbow tendonitis by having it rest on your rhomboids into your elbow. So she's going to go ahead and take it off. From there, you're going to take 1 to 2 steps, as little as possible, to minimize as much time under the bar as possible. So everything's nice and tight, elbows are pulled down. A lot of times, if you can, Des, while you're doing it, you'll see people raise their elbows up. What that's gonna immediately do is start to collapse your upper T-spine here. So what you wanna do is pull your elbows down, and then you're gonna push your chin back into the bar, right? You don't wanna overextend back this way. You're just trying to pack your head into the bar, and that's gonna create a nice even line. If you can, Ryan, go to the side here. It's gonna create a nice even line, right? So a lot of times what you'll see with people squatting is they'll unhinge at the hips first, and they'll be a little bit more excessive. Yep, so they'll be here, hips are back, heads forward. So you have this huge gap of where the bar should be in between, and you're creating a lot of space, which is not gonna give you the strongest position. So what you wanna do is you wanna squeeze everything in tight, squeeze your glutes, push your hips forward, then you're gonna pull your rib cage down, brace hard, and then that's gonna give you a nice straight line all the way down. What I always tell people is how you're gonna finish the lift is how you wanna start the lift. You're not gonna start the lift in an unhinged position with your knees and hips not locked out. So from there, you're gonna dig into the ground, root, and then you're gonna twist. And then that's gonna bring your hips in even more and activate your glutes. And then from there, you're just gonna break a little bit at the hips and then squat straight down into your squat. So breaking at the hips, squatting straight down, and then back up. It's not a hips driving all the way back for parallel shin or vertical shin. What you're doing is you're slightly breaking at the hips, and then you're just squatting straight down into the ground, twisting out, rooting into the ground, really twisting, and that's gonna drive your knees out as well into the squat. From there, you'll have sometimes knee cave a little bit. That's fine. A little bit of valgus in is not a big deal. That actually can help a little bit with spraying out of the hole and activate your quads more, your VMO more in the hole. So that's not a bad thing. Now, if it continues to progress inwards to a point where it's unsafe, then I'd work on strengthening up your glutes a little bit. And also it could be that you have weak quads as well. So from here, like we talked about, you're gonna focus on driving that big toe in the ground, and what that's gonna do is that's gonna help keep your quads underneath you as you squat. So go ahead and squat and then drive your hips back, that as if like your quads weren't involved in the lift at all. So come down, and then she would squat, and then she'd push back. Here, what you wanna focus on is driving your chest back into the bar. So you're going out of the hole, pushing your chest back, and driving that big toe into the ground so that your quads stay underneath you and your hips stay under the bar as much as possible. And that's the success, or that's the key to success in a squat, is being able to make sure that your hips stay under the bar as fast as possible. So if they drive back out, really try to force them back under and driving your chest up. So go ahead one more time and demonstrate. Hips in, brace, root into the ground, and then drive back up. Her start and finish should look identical, and that's the best way to do the squat. So that's just one of the ways you can do the squat as she had with the high bar or the low bar. We'll do a video on kind of body type, things like that, to differentiate why you should do one or the other. But today I just wanted to demonstrate some of the things that I see wrong with the squat, and then some of the fixes on how to get better at it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, just comment below. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you guys next time.